Is it so hard for me to be able to see Jones being an elite heavyweight? I don't know. I think he is more technically skilled than anyone in the division, but being undersized and his striking already on the decline, it's hard for me. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, I've said this before. Like if you guys watched anything I've done related to recent Jon Jones analysis, this is not new to you. Namely, if you've paid attention to his career, what the numbers show you and what the tape is very clear on is that his offense has quite clearly deteriorated. It is not what it once was, both in terms of its regularity and its potency. It is so far from that. But his defense it's still good. Don't get me wrong. It's not like bad. It's just not relative to what it was. It's not there anymore. And on the other side, his defense is extraordinary. It's so good. Takedown defense, distance management, blocking or getting out of the way of strikes. He's incredible at it. I mean, as long as that is in place where you have at least good to very good offense and you have sensational defense, you're going to beat a lot of guys that way. And you have, incredible experience too at this point, right? Multiple 5-round fights. And you faced every kind of opposition, different body types, different experience levels, different skill concentrations, you name it, right? I mean, that's a hard guy to beat. On the other hand, what I see a lot of people say is, oh, Jon Jones is the greatest light heavyweight. Let's just allow the inertia of his greatness to just keep carrying forward. But that's not how life works. Just because you have been great does not mean you will continue to be great. He might. It's not a declaration that he won't. It's just that what is your reason for saying that he will be great? That he has been, but that means nothing. That is not a way you can rely on it. What you have to do is have to look at what the landscape is in terms of his challenges and what his abilities are currently. And I think having some skepticism after, Jean Vellante going up there doesn't necessarily tell you a whole lot. But Gustafsson didn't do all that well. Who were some other ones that went up there recently? Ovin St. Preux. And Ovin St. Preux, you'd be like, oh, well, he's washed and he's old. But then he just did that to Alonzo Menefield, so he's clearly not that over the hill. I mean, my point being is, is it crazy to believe he would go up there and become champion and or do well? Certainly not. He's the greatest light heavyweight of all time. But you can't just allow the inertia of the wave he's been surfing to be the reason why you think he would have continued success. You have to have much more specific, specific reasons for why you would think that. For why you would think in these individual matchups at heavyweight he will have success. You can believe it, but you have to have a better reason than, well, that's just the way that it's been. Or if he was this good at light heavyweight, well, then he must be even better or just as good at heavyweight. That's not how it works.
One more matchup I'd like to ask you about, kind of a who would you like to see this guy face, is Jon Jones. He's possibly moving to heavyweight. He's saying that at least. Who would you have him make his heavyweight debut against? Would you have him hot shot to the title? Or are you saying, hey, nobody else really makes sense for Stipe right now, I don't want to see the Ngannou rematch? Would you have him face someone like Brock Lesnar? Would you have him face someone else? Who would you have Jon Jones make his heavyweight debut against?
I'm generally not a huge fan of line cutting. This is my preview, but in this case, a guy who has been mopping him up at 205 his entire career gets a historic fight against Stipe Miocic. It's the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. Him and Fedor. It's your opinion who's number one, but those are the two top dogs. Period.
Yep.
The Ngannou fight. Yes, Ngannou has earned the fight against Stipe. He's earned the rematch. The problem is Stipe pretty much dominated him for 25 minutes. How does Stipe get any better? You'd have to knock him out in the first round. That's a stupid strategy. I think we would see the same fight over again. It would take a miracle for Stipe to look any better because of how good he looked the first time. What does it do for Stipe? Not very much.
And that first round, the risk of the first round we had last time where Stipe had to eat those bombs, oh my God,
huge.
It was crazy.
Jon Jones is right, where he says, look, this is high risk, low reward for Stipe. It's a guy who's already beaten, who can knock him out. How often do we get this historic collision of two guys in the MMA sphere, unquestioned number one at 205 in MMA history, unquestioned number one heavyweight in UFC history? They get a chance to collide, and let's face it, the chance for Jon Jones to get that belt, turn to the camera and go, ha ha, DC, which that gets John Jones up in the morning. It does. He's always seen it that way. Yeah, who's your daddy? I got the belt. You couldn't get. He would love nothing more than that. So with all those things combined, I would like to see John Jones fight Stipe. I think we get a historic fight, and we don't often get a chance for those.
The reality is he's so much closer to the top of the division at welterweight because of the skills that he's got and the tools that he has and the size that he is, which is why his second matchup that he's got is Damian Maia. If you get a win over Damian Maia, you don't get easy fights after that. You beat Damian Maia. So you're right up in the mix at welterweight. So this next fight is at middleweight. He's fighting a guy that's a great grappler. He's had 44 fights, I believe, lots of submissions, 20-odd submissions on his record. He's taken on a guy that's not natural to his weight class, that has already booked to face someone that has the same kind of game as him. Obviously, Damian Maia's grappling skills compared to everybody else are of a higher level. But the fact that Gerald Meerschaert's a big, strong individual that likes to strike, that is a powerful kicker as a southpaw, that also is an excellent spoiler, I like the fact that he's annoyed. He's pissed off the fact that he's been double booked. He's the first fight for Khamzat in 2 fights that have been booked. I mean, if I'm Gerald Meerschaert, my sole intention in this fight is to stop Khamzat making it to that next fight. Even if I don't win the fight, I want to do enough damage so I'm not overlooked like that in the future. Because that's insulting if you're a fighter. He's going to walk through you and then he's going to take on the next guy. That's how I'm interpreting that if I'm the fighter. That's how Meerschaert will interpret it, should interpret it. If he does interpret it like that, I think there are benefits to it. If I look down Meerschaert's record, if I remember what I've seen of Meerschaert in the past, there are certain fights that stick out in my head, particularly the Jack Hermansson fight. I mean, even the Trevin Giles fight. Meerschaert is almost tailor-made for Khamzat. He's tailor-made for Khamzat to do what Khamzat does best, which is take you down, control you on the floor while he's just mauling you from every position, and wait to see what you give him to finish the fight. In the last 2 fights we've seen him, I mean, what is it? It's 100 and something strikes he's thrown and 2 received in 2 UFC outings, 2 weight classes. The thing is with both of those guys, John Phillips is a power puncher with decent takedown defense. Reese McKee is a precision striker with a good ground game. Neither of them had the wrestling to contend with Khamzat and what he was able to do. I also say the same thing goes for Gerald Meerschaert. I don't think he has the wrestling to deal with Khamzat. But what Meerschaert has, he's durable. He's got a good ground game. He's got a variety of different submissions that he can use. He's also good at taking a beating and being taken right to the brink of defeat and then turning it around.